Hello Modsnap fans, it's DJ Dogbone here, and I have a very special treat for you. We are here in Detroit in the Magic Bag with none other than Ocean Blue. David, thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the band. We'll talk a little bit about the history of the band first, and then we can talk about the new album that came out.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, so David, tell me a little bit about how the band came together. I know that y'all were friends in middle school, but I'd like to know a little bit about how that came to be and how the name came to be.
Okay, so yeah, Bobby and I and Steve all met when we were in middle school and became fast friends, and we connected on the level of music. We liked music that was kind of the underground music of the day, new wave, college radio, and we were all learning to play instruments at that time too. I just started learning to play guitar. I was showing and teaching Bobby how to play guitar. And we thought, hey, let's start a band. And we were terrible players, but we had something that was a lot of fun, at least for us, and a creative spark. And I got interested in writing stuff, and we played in Bobby's basement and kind of worked on our sound and worked on our songs, and eventually did some demos and took it from there.
So how did you leap forward into signing that deal with Sire Records? I mean, that's quite a leap from...
Yeah, it was a leap, and we were super fortunate. I realize it now more than I did when I was, 18 years old. But right out of high school, we got that deal, and it came about because we had an opportunity to do some recordings and created some demos. And then our drummer also had a studio, and we did some demos in his studio that were pretty good. And we found a manager who was a young guy, a very hungry guy in New York City, meaning young and hungry for success.
Right.
And shopped it around, and we immediately got some interest in the band based on those demos. Mm-hmm. And Sire Records, our front runner and favorite label at the time, the label president, Seymour Stein, came and saw us, and he made us a great offer. But so did Warner Brothers and I think maybe 4 or 5 other major labels.
Wow. That's
yeah, so we had that, what's called a bidding war, right? And we ended up going with Sire, and I'm really glad we did. We had a great relationship with them for our first 3 records.
And then you put out an album with, I think, Polygram
Yes.
after that.
Yes.
Now I understand that your last 2 albums have been put out on a new label. Can you talk a little bit about that label?
Right. So fast forward 30 years from where we're talking about, maybe not 30. Yeah, maybe 30. About 6 or 7 years ago, I started a label with some friends in Minneapolis, where I live now, and we were all, musicians. I'll just say middle-aged musicians who had worked on major labels or indie labels, but didn't really have a label at the time. But we were working on music, working on albums, and we were trying to finish those projects. And I thought, well, let's just start this co-op where we can kind of keep each other accountable and share knowledge and do cross-promotional kinds of things. And so we started that label in, I guess, 2013, and put out our last record and then our current record on that label.
That Aquamarine is a fantastic album, I have to tell you. It's so full of energy and life because we had been sort of without Ocean Blue music for a while, but you had teased us with some things. You had released 2 Christmas tracks in 2010
Yes.
and 2011 with a member of the Innocence Mission.
Yeah.
So how did those tracks come to be, and why did you release those, and will we see some more of those?
So yeah, those are tracks that I did, and that guy is my friend Don Paris. He's been my best friend for years. We met Don and Karen when we were first starting as a band, Don and Karen of the Innocence Mission.
Yes.
And they were kind of mentors and then friends, particularly to me. And Don became a fast friend, a best friend. And both of us really love Advent and Christmas and wintertime. And so probably a decade ago, we started during the holiday season writing or recording a song, and then we put it out just for a brief time online for people to check out. And yes, we are working towards an album. I'm hoping that it comes out next year, actually. We have enough tracks done now that we could put them in a Christmas collection or an Advent winter kind of thing.
That's awesome, because that seems to be the thing for some artists, is putting out a Christmas album, and those two tracks were really nice.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah.
So you have a new album that came out, Kings and Queens, Knaves and Thieves.
Yep.
King and queens, knaves and thieves, priests and plebes, they're all the same being.
And I noticed that on one of the tracks you brought in some of your label mates, two ladies.
That's right.
So can we talk a little bit about that track?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite tracks on the record, and it was one of the most difficult tracks to do. Lyrically, kind of a hard and heavy track for me, and I wanted another voice involved, and particularly a voice of a woman. And my friend Allison and my friend Charlotte are just wonderful singers. Both of them are involved in other bands on the label, and they're both good friends. And so I think it's the first track of the Ocean Blue where we have a female singer, or a singer who's not me or Ed.
Right.
And
that's why it stood out so much.
Yeah, and I just love it. I hope I can do more like that in the future.
And you put out this album on vinyl, very much like your re-releases. And how? So those re-releases, you had to work with Sire, and you had to work with Rhino to get that done.
That's right.
How difficult was that to get your stuff reissued on vinyl?
Well, working with Rhino and Sire and Warner Brothers was not. We have some great friends there, particularly a guy named John who he's a fan and really helped make that happen. So doing the release with Sire, and Seymour Stein also was sort of blessed the whole project. And so it was exciting to see all three of our Sire records on vinyl, because originally our first record was on vinyl, but Cerulean and Beneath the Rhythm and Sound, our second and third records, were not. That was sort of the height of CDs, and
right.
Warner Brothers wasn't putting out vinyl in the early 90s. So to see those get vinyl was great. The hardest part that we've discovered is just doing vinyl is tricky business. Mm-hmm. It's an old technology. And so we just did a repressing of those first two records, actually. That'll be out in a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And just reminded how, like, it's pretty easy to put up a digital file, but to shepherd something along through the stamping and plating and mastering process of vinyl records it's a lot of work.
Right. The frequency responses of a turntable are so different, so you basically have to remix the album almost.
You have to remaster it for sure, because the floor and ceiling of the frequencies and the bandwidth for the tracks is so much different. But in the end of the day, it's really nice to listen to records, and that's frankly what a lot of people want to buy now. I mean, I think with this release, we're probably selling, or I'm certain we're selling more vinyl than CDs, and digital downloads are almost non-existent anymore. So it ends up being streaming, and for our fans, some CDs, and then a lot of vinyl. And that's really how artists are making money these days. And, it's tricky to do that as an artist.
Well, I picked up the red vinyl.
Thank you.
Pre-ordered that, and I was very pleasantly surprised to hear it so clean. A lot of times when you have a vinyl record that's colored, they tend to be noisier. So I don't know who did your pressing, but that was quality, clean, virgin, almost like virgin vinyl. It was beautiful.
Oh, good.
Beautiful.
Glad to hear that.
Well, what's next? You mentioned that there's going to be potentially a Christmas album. You're on tour right now, and are we going to see you in Texas?
You will see us in Texas. We're very excited about that. It's been a long time since we've done a tour of Texas. So we'll be in Dallas, Austin, and Houston. We've played Austin at South by Southwest a lot over the last decade, but not for a proper show. So we're excited about that. Hopefully a Christmas record next year. We've got more dates in through the beginning of 2020 in support of Kings and Queens, Knaves and Thieves. I've started writing for a new record, and we'll probably start making recordings for that in the coming months. But right now we're enjoying playing live. I mean, the shows have been so much fun. I like playing live more than I ever have, certainly more than when I was younger, because we do we do it in measured doses. So those 3 Texas states, we'll play those and then take a break. So we'll be very fresh and, I don't know, I think at the top of our game when we're doing it. So.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing you in the Lone Star State. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thanks for coming to Detroit.
Yes. You've been listening and watching Modsnap Radio on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Take care.